I want to say to start off with that I realize how messed up a situation this is, and I understand why my boyfriend would be upset and even suspicious, but I can't believe he doesn't trust me. So, I've been with my BF, Paul, for 3 years. In the beginning of our relationship, Paul had some issues with trust. He had been cheated on in the past. I made it clear right away that I had never cheated on anyone, that I would not, and that I understood if he had trust issues from the past, but that it was a deal breaker to me to be with someone who couldn't trust me. He has, since those early days, been really good about it, and throughout our 3 years together, I think I have earned his trust. I have always been honest with him and never cheated on him. He's asked to see conversations of mine that I've had with male friends twice over those 3 years, and I've obliged. The second time, however, I made it clear to him that I was very unhappy to be treated as though I was acting suspiciously and did not deserve privacy with my friends when he had no reason at all to think I was being shady. I said that if he didn't trust me because of something I had said or done, I was 100% happy to have a conversation about that, to discuss it, and to address any issues he had, but if I had done literally nothing to cause suspicion, then I expected him to trust me. He agreed with me, said that I had done nothing, and never asked again. Once of those conversations he asked about was with my friend Roger. Roger had, 2 years before I started dating Paul, confessed feelings of love for me. I told him I wasn't interested, and that was that. By the time I was seeing Paul, I had absolutely no reason to think things were anything but platonic between Roger and myself. A week ago, Roger and I got together for coffee. Again, I want to stress that before this happened I had literally no reason at all to think he had held on to those feelings. At the cafe, Roger suddenly went on this impassioned monologue about how much he still loved me, how Paul was a terrible boyfriend and I should dump him and be with Roger, how loyal Roger was, how perfect we were together, etc. I was pretty much silent through this whole speech because I was so surprised and uncomfortable. But when he stopped I told him, probably not as strongly as I should have, but I didn't know what to do, that I loved Paul, that I was absolutely not leaving Paul, and that I needed to go home immediately. I was shaken up by the whole thing, so I took my time getting home to calm down. But, by the time I got home, I found that Roger had sent a long, utterly insane FB message to Paul detailing how much he loved me, that we were destined to be together, and heavily implying, but not outright stating, that Roger and I had been carrying on an affair for weeks. I don't know why he did this. I have no explanation. Paul believes it completely. He has listened to my explanation of things, but thinks I am lying. He doesn't want to see me or talk to me at all anymore. I'm completely devastated that Paul would believe this FB message over me. I'm horrified that my relationship with him has ended like this. I'm embarrassed that now I'm being seen as a cheater and a slut who slept around on Paul. I'm utterly hateful toward Roger. It's been a week and I can't convince Paul to talk to me. I know he had those trust issues in the past, but I really believed we were long past them. What do I do? Update 1. I want to thank everyone so much for commenting. Before I post what happened, I just want to address a few things that I didn't get to in the first post. First, Paul knew I was having coffee with Roger. It wasn't some kind of secret thing. Paul has female friends he has lunch or coffee with alone too, so this isn't unusual in our relationship. Second, Paul did not know that Roger had said he loved me 5 years ago. I definitely made a mistake not telling him that, but honestly, it was so long ago and to my, obviously wrong, knowledge was old history. We did not extensively discuss our past, so there wasn't really a natural point where it would have come up, and it just never occurred to me to say anything. Finally, Roger and I did not have a particularly intense friendship. It's not like we were texting constantly or best buddies. We hung out occasionally and would be in touch if something relevant came up, but we didn't just chat randomly. Anyway, with that having been said, I took the advice of some Redditors, and when I was a little calmer I FB messaged Roger asking him why he lied. He responded with "What do you mean?" at which point I started pressing him harder. He responded only with one-word answers, and honestly didn't reply to most of my messages at all, no matter how much I asked, and never actually said any definitive statement of yes I lied for such and such reason. Finally, I sent him a definitive statement that said I had never had an affair with him, that I was incredibly hurt and angry, that our friendship was over and that he was never to contact me again. He replied okay, and that was that. I sent the entire FB conversation to Paul, not thinking it would help save us but just to try and clear my name. In the message, I asked him if Roger's reactions to my questions and my response to Roger was in line with what he would expect if Roger's accusations were true. Paul didn't respond that day, but the next day he called me. Paul basically said that the more he thought about it, the more he believed me, and that the conversation between Roger and I helped him believe that. That Roger's responses didn't make sense and that he now thought nothing had gone on. However, he said despite that the trust was broken between us and he couldn't be with me. I got pretty mad and yelled at him, asking why I was being punished for nothing, and he just basically disengaged from the discussion. Not my finest moment, I know, I was just so overwhelmed with frustration. We did eventually end the conversation calmly, if not amiably, and he is dropping off the stuff that I had left at his apartment later this week. I learned my lesson. Not only will any declaration of interest by a friend end that friendship, forever, but I will never date someone who has trust issues or a history of being cheated on again. I'm sure I come across as a little bitter about this, but honestly I feel like there was absolutely no point to my fidelity and honesty during those 3 years. I got treated like a cheater whether or not I cheated, and both Paul and I ended up hurt and alone despite being 100% faithful. Better to end up alone or stick to FWB than end up investing another 3 years in a relationship to have this be the conclusion. My postpartum wife broke my late sister's watch. Ada for considering divorce? My wife, 30F, and I, 32M, have been married for 6 years. My wife gave birth to a baby boy 4 months ago, and she was recently diagnosed with PPD and is currently on medication. These past few months, my wife has shown momentary bouts of anger where she lashes out. These bouts of anger are usually temporary, and even though they are extremely fierce, I understand it's a symptom of PPD and sympathize with what my wife's going through. A couple of days ago, I had gone out to get groceries, but I had forgotten to get onions, which my wife had repeatedly reminded me to get. I will admit it was my fault, and there were a lot of items to get. I should have probably written it down in a note so as not to forget any item. When I came back home and my wife asked for onions, I apologized and said I had forgotten, and that I would drive back to the store to get them if she wanted me to. However, my wife completely lost her cool, and started lashing out at me again. She was really angry, and grabbed an item from the counter without looking at what the item was and threw it at the floor. However, I knew what the item was, but I was too late before my wife threw it on the floor and broke it. It was my late sister's watch. My sister passed away a couple of years ago of cancer, and it was the toughest thing I ever had to go through in my life. She gave me the watch as a memento to keep. I had gotten this watch for her on her birthday many years ago, but she got it engraved with our names. It meant a lot to me. So when my wife broke the watch and shattered it, I felt a bit numb. My wife immediately apologized multiple times, and was sobbing really heavily. I told my wife it's not her fault, and that it's alright, because I wanted to calm her down. But I internally felt devastated. That was the moment where for the first time ever I questioned if I loved my wife anymore. I don't plan on doing anything drastic for the next few months, because my wife is already going through PPD and I don't want to add additional stress on top of it. But after a year or so, I am seriously considering the possibility of a divorce, because I really am not sure if I love my wife anymore. Ada for considering divorce? My girlfriend of 5 years admitted I was not her first choice physically when we started dating. I, 26M, have been dating my girlfriend, 26F, for 5 years, and was planning to propose to her next month. Last night, my girlfriend and I were having a date night and we were talking about our first dates, and reminiscing how we met. We were cracking jokes, and it was a fun atmosphere. My girlfriend admitted that when we were in the talking phase, she was also in a talking phase with 3 other guys, and that I was not her first choice physically, and that there was this other guy who was very attractive, but he had the emotional density of a black hole. She was laughing about it, but I did not feel too great about what she said. In fact, I felt awful. Why would she even say that to me? My girlfriend sensed the shift in my reaction, and she apologized. I made an excuse and told her I was tired and was going to sleep. This morning the whole atmosphere was sort of awkward. I was upfront with her this morning, and told her what she said last night hurt me, and that I needed some space from her and to rethink this relationship. She even cried, which for me was a bit dramatic considering she was the one who hurt me last night. Can this relationship even be fixed? She has pretty much made me feel worthless after what she said last night. I'm really glad I haven't proposed to her yet, and I'm going to hold off on the proposal for now.